Broadcasting from Park Avenue West, you're watching WMFD Television, Channel 68.1, Mansfield.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
I didn't feel alone. I just felt like I was misunderstood because, I didn't have depression. So when people say, "Oh, aren't you so happy?" I really was happy, but I was also really, really terrified.
Maybe an hour after we got the message that we lost Danny, Danny's sister said to us, we were all crying, and she says, "What do we do? What do we tell people?" And I'm like, "Baby, we got to tell them the truth. This is nothing that can be hidden because otherwise the suicide will win."
We're not mental health professionals. This is just something that happened to our family. We direct people other places. And most important of all, I think, don't quit. Keep fighting. Keep living. Things will get better.
Good evening and welcome to Sparking the Conversation. We are 33 Forever, and I'm Jeff Heck. This is my wife, Donna. We are so excited to be able to bring you weekly half-hour messages, stories, and resources surrounding mental health topics and challenges. This show's purpose is to provide hope and both information and inspiration, making conversations about mental health the norm.
Today we have Amy Bush, who is a clinical mental health counselor, currently in private practice in Columbus. Amy is a member of our 33 Forever Professional Advisory Committee, and she's also a mother of two. With Amy, we have Sara Bennett, who is a high school teacher, a small business owner, a 33 Forever board member, mother of two, and she is Danny's younger sister. Welcome, ladies, to our show. We are very excited to have you on the show, and we had actually discussed it prior because what our show today is on about perinatal and postpartum depression. We had a mom on a couple weeks ago who had lost her daughter to suicide 5 days after her baby was born, and we knew if we had you on it, you could give us the twist on how to help and how to share your story. Amy, if you could just explain to us what exactly the mental health issues and description is behind perinatal and postpartum depression.
So postpartum depression and anxiety is characterized as mental health symptoms, a shift in mood, or a shift in functioning after one has a baby. Perinatal depression and anxiety can be seen while someone is still pregnant. All of the symptoms are very similar. So we may see symptoms in depression and anxiety that look like hopelessness, low self-worth, issues with concentration and attention, changes in appetite or energy levels. But something that is really specific to having a baby might look more like difficulty bonding with the baby, loss of self-identity. People can often mourn what their life used to look like once the baby has arrived. We also might see intrusive racing thoughts about the safety or the well-being of the baby. And we also might have excessive worry about the baby's schedule. Is my baby eating enough? Are they gaining the weight they need? Are they getting the sleep they need? These can be things that people struggle with on a daily basis after having a baby.
It's interesting because I think a lot of the things that you describe are pretty normal for a mom to have in the aftermath of having a baby or even while they're pregnant. But there comes a point in time where it's not just normal baby blues or it's not just normal anxiety or being anxious about having a new baby. It gets to a point where it's more.
Right, so we want to think about getting help or extra support when your symptoms are starting to increase or become more severe. We want to think about getting help also if it's been more than a couple weeks, really past the baby blues, and you're still really struggling. If you're having difficulties taking care of yourself or taking care of the baby, that's a really good time to ask for help. And then we really want to get immediate support if you are having thoughts of harming yourself or harming the baby.
Yeah. So all those things are really important, I think, as we start this conversation again tonight and build really up upon what Pat Gordon shared with us a few weeks ago. And Sara, you've got a kind of an interesting perspective on this too, because you yourself had a mother of two children, but you have your own story as it relates to postpartum issues, correct?
Yeah, so with my first son, when I was pregnant, I had complications, and some of the complications made me nervous about his well-being even before labor and delivery. But once he was born, I received a questionnaire at the hospital. I felt like, no, I don't have depression at all. I don't have any of these symptoms. And I even received a home visit from one of the nurses from the hospital I was discharged from. Same thing, gave me a questionnaire. I sort of passed with flying colors. So for me, all of the symptoms I was experiencing, I really thought were just normal mom anxious feelings. But really what I found out later is that I had postpartum anxiety. So the post-perinatal disorder sort of family, I didn't really know that that was a part of it until I asked for help. And one of the reasons why I felt like I needed to is that, you know, it is normal to hope that your baby's safe, but it's not normal to have really intrusive, repetitive thoughts where I was really, really nervous all the time about my son not breathing. I was not able to sleep unless somebody else was awake with the baby. I felt like I couldn't drive in the car because I was so worried about what was happening in the back seat without me being able to see him. And so there definitely were these tipping points where, you know, as a first-time mom, there are things that without more education or more awareness, I just didn't really know that it was a disorder. I didn't know that I needed really treatment for it.
Now, after you had your first child, Lincoln, did you get any antidepressants for that? Were you on anything?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at first, I didn't. I sort of tried to like soldier through it, and it caused me a lot of discomfort, and it really was not good for me, and it wasn't good for my family. And I really felt like I needed to make the commitment to my husband that if I ever did get pregnant again and I had a baby, as soon as those thoughts crept up, I would seek out help. And so I now am medicated, and I went to counseling, and they really helped me sort of take my feelings and make sense of them and give me some really good tools that I'm still using today. And I don't have those same really uncomfortable, intrusive thoughts or racing thoughts that kept me from sleeping. I don't experience those things anymore in that way.
And I think that's a great place for us to take our first break.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to take a break here, and we're going to be back in a minute with these ladies talking about peripartum mental health issues here on Sparking the Conversation. Come back in a minute.
Hope 419 is more than just a medication or therapy session. Our foundation is built around hope. We aim to provide the highest standard of care, equipping every patient with coping skills necessary for success. What do we hope for? We aim to provide our patients with a better balanced and more resilient self. In-person and virtual visits now available with locations in Mansfield and Ashland. Visit us today at hope419.com. In 1961, Les Gribbling and investors built a road race course. This summer, we celebrate the 60th season of racing at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The legendary road course in Lexington, Ohio will showcase some of the premier motorsports events in America, welcoming fans back for a full slate of races. Make Mid-Ohio a part of your summer. Kids 12 and under are always free, so get your tickets today at midohio.com.
Hi, I'm Joe Trollian, the Executive Director for the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. Addiction to drugs and alcohol create a personal struggle as well as impact those around you. You are not alone. We have many professionals and organizations who care. Reach out for help today. Know it before you need it. Visit Know It, the letter B, the number 4, the letter U, needit.com.
Brought to you by the Richland County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, growing and preserving a legacy of hope and success within our community.
Give your home's exterior a new look with new siding from Menards. Add a contemporary look with Novik polymer siding panels. These panels replicate the natural beauty of stone. Plus, they're easy to install and require no mortar. Or for a traditional look, check out our great selection of Timbercrest vinyl siding. It's 15% thicker than standard vinyl siding. Get 11% off all Timbercrest and Novik siding now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
This program discusses sensitive mental health issues, including suicide. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're here today discussing postpartum mental health issues and peripartum mental health issues with Amy Bush, who's a clinical psychologist, and Sara Bennett, who has struggled with this after the birth of her second child a little bit more than the first. And we were discussing tools that are available for moms who are struggling. For example, Amy, what do you recommend somebody who is struggling, the first thing that they would do?
So we obviously want to look at getting them some type of support based off of what their symptoms look like. If we're talking about tools that they can utilize in their home, we might first talk about building a support system. That's one of the very first things that we're going to look at. You know, there's a saying that like it takes a village to raise a kid, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think a lot of times nowadays parents are not always living near their families like they used to, and so I think it's important to get creative when you're building your support team. So yes, that might include your parents or in-laws, but I would also think about colleagues, neighbors, building a community of moms that you can utilize as support. I think a really great example is Sara and I are actually very good friends, and we met in prenatal yoga when I was pregnant with my first child and she was pregnant with her second. So that would be one recommendation that I would have, is really utilizing your support system. Another tip I might recommend is really thinking about implementing some type of intentional, simple coping skill or self-care task every day while you're at home with the baby, right? You know, if in order for me to take care of my child, I need to take care of myself. But it doesn't have to be big. It could be simply going on a 5-minute walk, taking a shower, starting and reading a favorite book. Those can all be just very simple, easy ways to get back into, one, gaining your identity, but also getting a break from worrying about the baby.
You know, I think it's interesting. You were talking about all those great skills, but I also think that maybe women don't appreciate or understand, and maybe their spouses or their significants don't understand how common really some of these issues are. And I know there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt, because if you're, you know, everybody's so happy when the baby is born and everybody thinks you're so joyous as a mom, and then you have all these feelings that you think, why don't I feel that way? That's something that's real, isn't it? And this is a pretty common problem.
Yeah, I specialize in postpartum treatment, and so a lot of my clients might come in minimizing their issues. I think I should be in here, I think I should be talking about this, but it's very, very common to have difficulties with certain things like bonding with your baby. I think that social media has really played a huge part in perpetuating postpartum depression and anxiety, because we see these really happy pictures of moms with their babies or their wonderfully staged babies, and that's just not always reality, and you know this if you've been a mom. I think it's also okay to say sometimes
it's not always pretty, is it?
It's not always pretty, and it's a really difficult job, and I don't know that we're always great about owning that, especially when it comes to social media.
Yeah. So Sara, your particular story, you had some, I think, pretty, what I since found out were pretty typical kinds of things. And you talked about some of those intrusive thoughts, but what did you do? Did you use some of those strategies Amy was talking about to try to minimize your issues?
Yeah, so before I took those like next steps, which were definitely my most important steps, which were to get into counseling and to get on anti-anxiety medication that was overseen by a psychiatrist. That was a really important tool that I used. But even before that, walking outside and just getting fresh air where it was quiet away from my little guy. Or, you know, my mother-in-law told me that I should just go and take a drive and play music really loud and yell or cry or do some kind of like expression that could release some of those feelings. And that was really important. Or I also had one where I would you know, just go and sit at the park and just like watch other people and just kind of have some quiet time. And it was walkable, so I could just pop back to my house. And so it was safe to be away, but just those little breaks like she's talking about could be difference makers, especially in those more intense moments.
When you were struggling, Sara, with your issues, did you feel like you were alone?
I didn't feel alone. I just felt like I was misunderstood because, you know, I didn't have depression. So when people say, oh, aren't you so happy? I really was happy, but I was also really, really terrified. And I think that because I didn't have those depressive symptoms, as I mentioned, I felt like that was just normal. And then when I started to share, being vulnerable and sharing my story really allowed me to understand that what I was experiencing wasn't just typical parenting. And that was really helpful. So I also think a suggestion I would have just for moms is to talk about what you're experiencing and that was huge for me.
And I think that it takes a lot of forms. These issues with ladies, either during the pregnancy or afterwards, after the baby's here, they take a lot of forms. And I think your point is well taken. It's not just depression. It's not just anxiety. It's not, there are people who have psychosis that are literally caused by the hormones and by all the other issues going on with them. So it can take a lot of different forms. I'm sure it's important to be able to recognize what's going on with yourself and maybe your significant, right?
Right, and I think that this is a good time to say that, something to really think about is talking to your partner while you're pregnant and talking to them about, hey, if you see changes in me, if you see that I'm struggling to get dressed or take care of the baby, or you see major changes in my appetite, let me know those observations. And it doesn't just have to be your partner. It could be a family member or a friend. So also be open to hearing, because sometimes we don't always see what the struggle really looks like.
Right. I think that's a really good point, and it's one that everybody, it's important to have that conversation with your partner, your significant, ahead of time.
That's a great idea, something I never would have thought of.
Right.
There's another website you told me about. It's on the Mental Health America of Ohio. It's called Poem, and when we get back, I want you to talk about that, because we do need to take a break right now. And we're here again with Amy Bush and Sara Bennett discussing mental health and postpartum and peripartum depression.
If we could say one thing to her, I think what we would let her know is how important she was to us.
And I wish that I hadn't been so reluctant to confront him.
Be a friend, listen to him, and get him help.
I am so glad someone reminded me that I'm worth it and will always be worth it.
I'm glad that I have people now that support what I want to do in my dream of helping other people.
Can we stop? It's McDonald's. Please, can we stop? Oh, please? Come on, it's right there. Please.
Yes! Get the shareable $8.99 bundle with the 20-piece chicken McNuggets and 2 large fries.
Catalyst Life Services, a comprehensive behavioral health organization, has been serving the community for 70 years. Our wide array of wraparound services and our ability to treat the whole person is what sets us apart. It's everything you need in one place: mental health, crisis, detox and addiction services, case management, and peer recovery support. We even offer vocational programming to get you back to work. Catalyst Life Services. Call today and get the help you need.
Twin Lakes Golf Course is affordable golf for the whole family. Play their beautiful 18-hole course for as low as $24 with a cart. Twin Lakes is designed to challenge golfers of all skill levels. And with their remodeled pavilion and course improvements, it's the perfect place for your next tournament or golf outing. Twin Lakes Golf Course, 2220 Marion Avenue Road in Mansfield. Call now for tee times.
Changing the direction of country radio.
Country music's always going to be your home.
Little Big Town, Miranda Lambert.
Country music has never sounded so good. 97.3, The Spur.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We're here with Amy Bush, a clinical counselor, and Sara Bennett, a person who's had struggles with peripartum issues, and she's been great enough to share her story tonight. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about as we were leaving off, Amy, we were talking about some resources that you recommend and that you have. One is Poem. It's something that they use the acronym Poem, correct? So tell us about that and maybe some of the other resources that you like.
So Poem is an amazing organization. It stands for Perinatal Outreach and Encouragement for Moms. It's statewide, so really anyone in Ohio can access it. And the great thing is it's not just for moms, but it's also for anyone struggling with infertility, struggling during pregnancy, or perinatal loss. And so they provide support groups, which I think is wonderful to connect with other moms. And because of the pandemic, you can also now do it virtually, which I think it makes it more accessible. But they also can provide you with a list of therapists in your area who provide postpartum treatment. And so I think that they're a great, wonderful resource to connect with. You can also utilize their telephone resources as well. And so you can access them through the MHA website. There's actually a link for PALM on there. But again, if you are struggling or you're just even unsure if you need help, they're a great place to start. Another resource that I recommend to people is psychologytoday.com. This is great whether you're struggling with postpartum issues or any mental health symptoms. So basically what you can do is you can filter to find the best match and the best therapist for you. You can filter location, insurance, even expertise like couples counseling or postpartum or depressive issues. The last thing I really want to talk about today is that it's really important to utilize your OB if you're really struggling with mental health issues surrounding pregnancy or postpartum. Sometimes your OB or a lactation consultant might be the first person that you talk to that's really concerned about your health and not just the baby's. So being open and transparent with your OB is very important, and they're really great nowadays about having a referral list that they can send to you for medication management or clinical help.
Yeah. The OB is so important. Sarah, when you were experiencing your symptoms, and had you talked to Amy about it as a friend?
Yeah, so I, as Amy mentioned, we met in prenatal yoga when I was pregnant with my second, and we'd actually talked about the condition that I was experiencing that was sort of giving me some really anxious feelings during pregnancy, but we sort of bonded immediately, and then she was a great support, really just from a friendship perspective. It was so nice to sort of take your metaphoric temperature here and say, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, what are you experiencing as a new mom? And then she could sort of say, like, well, I'm not experiencing that, but I did experience this. And it's really nice to have friends who you can talk to about this. And I did talk to my OB with my second, and she was the first person to start me on anti-anxiety medications. I took an SSRI to start, and it wasn't the perfect fit for me right away. So my sort of final thought on some of this regarding treatment is it might take a couple of different medications to try before you find your right fit, you know? And I would say that for therapists too. I joke that therapy can be like dating. You like try a therapist, that's not the best fit, then you got to try somebody else. And that doesn't mean to throw in the towel and say, oh, I tried therapy, I didn't connect, or I tried this medication, it made me feel worse. I've experienced all of those things. And I found my right fit with my counselor. I found my right fit with my medication, but I had to be patient and just not give up.
Well, and I think that's a great point that you make, and it's true whether it be a new mom or it be somebody else struggling with any other kind of mental health challenge, which is that one med isn't necessarily right for everybody. It's not a one-size-fits-all. The one counselor is not necessarily right for everybody. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And don't lose hope because the first ones aren't working, or you got to go back to the well again and again and try different things. So thinking about your advice for a mom or a loved one of a mom who's struggling, what would you leave us with that kind of idea?
Yeah, just that I can say that I love being a parent, and parenting in general is really rewarding. It's also really scary. And I think that you can have these big moments of joy, whether they're now, my kids are 5 and 3, or when they're 5 weeks old. And I don't know, like Amy, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, we were just talking about that the beginning can be fun.
Well, I think Sarah's story is a really great story, especially since she's gone through it with both children, is that her example is a wonderful point to that you can enjoy this experience. You know, parenting is really difficult. It's a really big adjustment, but if you seek help, if you take care of yourself as the parent, you can really bond and enjoy this experience with your baby.
You guys have hope for moms out there and moms and families out there who are struggling with some of this?
Of course.
Yeah. I feel like the more you share, the more you can enjoy this really, really transformational time in your life.
And you might make connections with other moms that also build your support system.
Yeah, I think that that's a very important thing is just building your support system. And Sarah, I have to tell you, as your mom, you are an incredible mother. It has been such a blessing to watch you thrive, and you struggled, and I remember that too, and I'm so glad you had your support system. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing with us. And Amy, thank you for sharing your expertise. We could talk forever, but we are going to have to go. So again, thank you very much. And we would like to make sure that you guys stay. We're going to have to take a break, and we're going to come back with our memory moment, and it's a very special one today. Thanks, and we'll be right back.
Hope 419 is more than just a medication or therapy session. Our foundation is built around hope. We aim to provide the highest standard of care, equipping every patient with coping skills necessary for success. What do we hope for? We aim to provide our patients with a better balanced and more resilient self. In-person and virtual visits now available with locations in Mansfield and Ashland. Visit us today at hope419.com.
33 Forever was founded by the family and friends of Danielle Leedy.
Our amazing daughter, who was a vibrant, strong, professional young woman, lost a long battle to chronic depression in February of 2019.
33 Forever was created to both honor Danny's life, as well as her longtime passion to raise awareness and empower those struggling with depression, anxiety, self-worth, and suicidal thoughts.
Visit our website to learn more. We are 33 Forever.
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for dental visits. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for transportation to my doctor. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay to have my prescriptions delivered directly to my home. Did you?
These and more are important benefits some Medicare Advantage plans may give you. So if you're eligible for Medicare, call us right now because you could enroll in a plan with some amazing additional benefits. Call now.
Welcome back to Sparking the Conversation. We are at the point of the show that we call the memory moment. And we have a really special memory moment tonight because, as you guys knew from the graphic on the show earlier tonight, Sara Bennett, our guest, is also our daughter and, more importantly, Danny's sister for purposes of the show. So Sarah's going to do the memory moment. And so take it away, Sara. What's your memory moment?
Yeah, so it's fun to be a part of our big, loud family, and it was especially fun to be Danny's younger sister. And what made it so especially fun is anytime we went on vacations or trips together. So there's a lot of us that have, a lot of different personalities, and Danny's personality on every vacation was always to bring the spontaneity and most certainly to bring some playfulness. And so one of my favorite memories is we went on a cruise together, and after we did our safety check-in, we took our disposable cameras all over the entire cruise ship and did like poses all over. And that was just something that you could expect with Dan if you were going to be with her on vacation, visiting her in her hometowns all over the country. You could always expect her to make you smile and make you laugh.
That is wonderful. I remember that cruise. We actually had two cruises, one before we were all a bunch and one after. And the one before we were all a bunch, you guys were a little creative.
We had a lot of fun. But yeah, she was always, I would say always that person for each of the siblings is always the playful and silly and fun one.
She had a gift for that, just making everybody feel like they were the only one focused. Yeah. So thank you for that, Sara. That was really special.
It was.
Well, that's our memory moment for this evening, and we thank Amy and Sara again for being with us. We welcome you next week to come back same time to Sparking the Conversation, and have a great week.